Hey guys, Nicole here. All right, we're going to do a little Dirty Dozen weekly forecast for you guys. Let's just go through each of the signs and see how this forecast or this week's going to shape up for you. I'm doing this very casually. It's Sunday. I'm in my lovely house cleaning clothing, so I apologize. But I thought this would be kind of fun for you guys. I'm going to be doing this every week from now on, along with a monthly look at the lunar calendar for the month and as well as just the forecast for the month. So all right, let's talk about Aries first. I've given everybody kind of a name for the week. So this, to me, this theme is designing the blueprint. Aries is very much juiced up. We have planets, Mars especially, which is the natural ruler of Aries, in Aries, and right out of the gates, it's the Capricorn time of year, which squares Aries. Aries, they're the beginning of the zodiac. They're the ones that are at the front. So it feels like, to me, they are very much focused on something that has to do with their future, planning for their future, the career ambitions, big plans too, is what it feels like this year. And it feels like a very creative year, like you guys feel as though everything's on your side. Having Jupiter form a trine from the sign of Sagittarius for an Aries is wonderful, just to give a general sense of, life is good. And on top of that, we've had all of this Capricorn for you guys up in the 10th house, and so this is a natural placement for us to feel like we're either dissatisfied with our current reputation in our career, we're working on fixing it, and maybe this past year, especially sort of towards the end of last year, maybe you've had some things happen that have brought to the forefront potential possibilities for you that are going to be opportunities down the road or right now. So anything that has to do with maybe even planning a foreign trip. You've got Venus and Mars. We'll have Mars is in Aries right now, but Venus is moving into Sagittarius. And so for you guys, that means the 9th house, which is your house of sort of foreign trips and travel and things that you're sort of believing in and aiming towards. And then with Mars down in the 1st as well, to me it just feels like a great time to plan for a trip that's perhaps to a foreign country. Okay. Now we move on to Taurus. Taurus, you guys, mind on your money, money on your mind, or at least this to me feels like there's a practical focus on planning this year. And that's not true. Not all of the signs are super focused on planning. Some of the signs are like, wait, it's January. So, but you guys, Tauruses, you guys tend to be a bit more aware of what the date is, in your environment. And with Capricorn, all the Capricorn that we've had, the pile up in Capricorn, is in the Taurus natural 9th house. So that's been you guys kind of re-examining your beliefs when it comes to money, when it comes to what is it that's going to give you security and make you feel safe. A lot of times you might look to the past. You might think that you want to try something new, but you may have actually learned this past couple of years that sometimes, like the tortoise wins the race, or it's better to be cautious, it's better to maybe be careful and use techniques that are tried and true rather than trying something crazy and new. You may have also been focused on where am I at with just like my finances, where am I at with the things that I have in my life that I hold on to make me feel sort of safe. And I feel like this is a week in particular where it's just a little bit more of that. You may have also been recently having with church, if you're religious at all, or if you grew up with a religion, you might have, as of the last year or so, been kind of wondering or thinking more about what it is you believe in. And if it's not a religion, it can even just be, what's your relationship like to the divine? What's your relationship like to the sacred? And trying to include, if possible this week, some time for meditation or for some prayer. There's some wonderful guided meditations on YouTube that you could listen to if you don't like to just sit there. If you like the music and whatnot. But it just feels like it's a time, these Venus and Mars both being in fire signs don't make these heavy duty, they do make aspects, everything aspects everything, okay? Everything in a circle has a mathematical relationship to everything else. Now, when we talk about Taurus though, with our Mars being, for you guys, let me actually pull up your little chart here. So for you guys with Mars is in your 12th, and that does have a feel of kind of like, if there's something that you were sort of pushing for or fighting for, it's sort of a time where we step back for a moment. It doesn't have the same feel as if Mars is in your 1st, which will happen around Valentine's Day. Okay, Mars moves into your 1st, and that will feel a bit more like kind of go time. This to me feels like it'll be a time where it's just kind of business as usual, focused on, like I said, money on your money, money on your mind. That's more like from this perspective of kind of the grind, saving your money, working towards something. It doesn't feel like a particularly crazy busy in other ways. Okay, Venus for you guys is moving into the 8th. So Venus in Sagittarius. Now this could bring in your love life, there could be some issues with, again, depends on the rest of your chart, honestly, but with your partner, if there are ever fears about fidelity, fears about betrayal, abandonment, or someone taking all of our money and spending it when they weren't supposed to, if you're married, just themes that might have to do with trust issues. And if you have issues of trust with your partner, or even it could be even with friends if you don't have a partner, or if you've got your money invested somewhere, you may have some worries, some hesitations, some issues that come up, like a loan as well. You may have, but Venus tends to help us. She tends to be benefic. So Venus in Sagittarius to me feels like maybe getting clear on the debt you're willing to carry, maybe getting clearer for yourself on, it could be a time too where we have opportunities given to us to take on more debt, so just to be cautious and be cautious, especially with Jupiter in your 8th. You don't want to get yourself in over your head, okay? Moving on to Gemini. Gemini, I'm calling this one New Faces Disappoint. So this, you guys have had Capricorn in your 8th. This feels like a time where with Venus moving into your 7th house, the opportunity to meet people, new people, whether they're friends or romantic. Typically people, though, maybe from a different country or a different background, different existential beliefs from you. They're bringing something to the table that's maybe a little bit different than yourself. Depending on, it's funny, I'm looking at a friend of mine who's a Gemini. I'm just using his chart right now, and there's some interesting things happening in his, but at any rate, for the rest of you, Venus in the 7th is usually a time where our friendships and our relationships are going well, and Venus in Sagittarius is like, I want to have true love. It's like I want the big thing, the epic, grand, romantic adventure with another person. I want a partner who's optimistic, who's going to bring the humor and sort of the bright side into my life. So I sort of am just wondering, because at the same time you have Mars in the 11th and it's in Aries, and that also kind of feels like new opportunities to meet new people. And opportunities, though, I think it's also disruptive things happening outside of your control that prevent you from being able to, perhaps meet up with someone that you're wanting to meet up with, or something that's coming from maybe your friends, conflicts in that world that somehow is affecting, you may be called in to be kind of a peacemaker or something this week. So just be prepared to have your, if you've ever read that book, Crucial Conversations, just have it on tap. Okay, then we move on to Cancer. This is a week that has to do with the self-image. I feel like with all of the Capricorn in your natural 7th house, for all you Cancers, all of that Capricorn, which is like, here you go, I'm going to show you this thing that's called reality. And it's going to be in the area of relationships. It's going to be sort of areas where you feel like either you weren't good enough or you wonder if you were good enough. Why did that breakup happen? What was my role? You might be afraid of opening up again. And if you're in a long-term relationship, there may be a quality of you taking sort of stock of that relationship. And this winter, for a lot of times for Cancers, winters can be a little bit challenging because it's opposite, the sun's opposite your natal placement, and Cancers are already very sensitive to their environment. So winter can be a little bit of a winter blues situation, and especially with all of these, like Saturn and Pluto, all these planets, and Mars was in Capricorn, it's just adding weight, and it's adding, here's reality, one day you're going to die, how do you feel about the relationship you're in now? Or how do you feel about how you've done relationships in the past? So another big thing is, with all of that Capricorn over in the 7th, we have squares down to the 4th and to the 10th. What's your satisfaction level look like in your relationship to your inner world? Like if you're a creative person, let's say, what you really want to be creating emotionally versus what you've been showing up in the outer world creating. You may have had to make decisions that have paid the bills. So that's I'm just using one possible example, but it feels like this week it's a good time for some TLC. Okay, we have, let me pull your chart up here. So we've got Venus is kind of hanging out, has been in the 5th, but Venus will be moving into the 6th. So having Venus in Scorpio, as she has been in Scorpio in the 5th, definitely is a time of like reevaluating from a very deep place how you're feeling about yourself. You know, and Venus in Scorpio, she can sort of tell us that we need to rejuvenate or restore ourselves in some way, or there can be deeper things as well. So having Venus move into the 6th, I think the focus is going to be a bit more on taking care of and improving the things in your day-to-day life that you have control over. So like your health regime or your beauty regime, maybe your exercise and how you're taking care of your body and the habits that you're, actually practicing daily, meditation maybe, prayer maybe, things to help you be balanced. Having everything with Venus and Scorpio in the 5th is way overdoing. So like it can be having way too much good food or way too much good anything. I mean, it feels good, but it can also be the extreme and the other side of like asceticism, I always say that right, where you're like having too much and it's like binging and purging, too much and then not enough and that kind of thing. So I think once Venus moves into Sagittarius, you guys will sort of feel, even though it's in conjunct your sun, a bit more in control, so to speak, of kind of your health and moderating that area of your life. Mars, on the other hand, is in Aries, so Mars is up in the 10th. With work, if you've been feeling any kind of frustration or a sense like kind of like a horse in a race, racehorse in the gates ready to go, if you're wanting to be doing something with your life where you feel proud of it and you feel like it is excellent and it's worthy of other people's applause, so to speak, or other people's validation, that's typical for this placement. Now, you might be feeling though as well, this agitation. You might feel irritated at your reputation, or you may feel like wanting to do things your own way. You may though feel like a little bit perfectionistic and feel like things you're not quite good enough, or you're not sure if it's like you're fighting with yourself. That's kind of how this feels to me. Okay. So I think Venus moving into the 6th will help you get into a place that's a bit more, it's like fire and earth, so it's a bit more like, okay, these are the things I need to do to get this job promotion that I want, or these are the things I need to do to fix my grades, or to, this is what I need to do to improve maybe I'm feeling not as attractive, so these are the things I can do to make myself feel more attractive, that sort of self-love. So moving on to Leo, I'm calling it sort of pre-spring fever. It's like, having the ingress of Mars into Aries, and then but Venus also in Sagittarius, there's a fire grand trine, so you're a fire sign. This sense of feeling lit up, wanting to create. It's like the fires are rolling again inside of you, but at the same time, you may feel weighted down by some responsibilities and duties that you have to your family and to work. So to me, it feels like there's hope on the horizon, especially maybe for your love life. You may feel a certain joie de vivre this week, a certain sense of like hope and optimism about romance and about love and about possibility. Leo, the houses for you guys will have Venus in the 5th in Sagittarius. That's very much about like the self and what is it for you that makes you feel good, that makes you feel excited and hopeful and like optimistic about life. That's the stuff that you'll be experiencing this week. You'll be experiencing whether it's from a lot of times Venus brings things from another person. So it could be like a romantic partner, somebody who is, brings optimism and belief and goodness into your space. At the same time, with Mars up kind of in the 9th, that's also activating this area, and you maybe have felt this since the beginning of the year, but sort of a sense of I want to move towards the next thing. Like I've been feeling kind of stuck and I'm ready to move away from feeling stuck. So if you're dealing with another person that you're in a relationship with who's still kind of in that stuck place or not quite ready, you may continue to have to sort of wait. You've got a lot of planets in the 6th house, and that tends to be a time where we are polishing and refining ourselves. We're learning humility, we're learning to wait, we're learning patience, because it's in those spaces where we get to exercise. It's when we get quiet. You know, when it gets quiet, those are the times when we have revelation come to us. That's when we have those like downloads of information or whatever you want to call it. Okay, it's all the same thing to me. Inspiration. And can't have inspiration without quiet. It's actually cool. You can like make it quiet. You just stop. And so if you've been feeling that a lot, I know you're sun sign ruled by the sun. You guys are our sunshine. That's what we call you. Every Leo I've ever known, pretty much, that's been close in my life, that's been their nickname, sunshine, because you guys are like the sun. You're like sunshines. So you've probably felt a little bit like your sunshine's been under a bit of a cloud lately. And if not, this isn't true for every Leo. It depends on your whole chart. It's just life's kind of like realities and burdens and whatnot, and just having to deal with adulting, #adulting. That's been the theme for you guys for a bit. So I think this should be a nice week for y'all. Just you may be still feeling pretty impatient and feeling not quite 100% satisfied. Okay. So Virgo, you guys, I'm calling this getting clearer about those who matter most. And so this past week could have been kind of a challenging year for Virgo, or not year, week for Virgo. And this upcoming week does look a little bit more optimistic. And what I'm seeing for you guys, we've got all of the sort of Capricorn pileup, I'm calling it, just it's all in the fifth. That's the sense of self, the identity, the inner child. That's the part of you that's going to be like lit up with childlike wonderment and excitement. It's how you do your life, kind of. It's like it's your identity. Okay. As a Virgo, Virgos tend to be more careful with, like they're not the type of people that tend not to be these reckless, like crazy people. They tend to be a little more cautious about, shining their light. And having all these planets in the fifth that have been heavier, earthy, everyday reality planets, having to do the work, working on the self. If you've needed to kind of reparent yourself, you've had that stuff come up. Am I lovable as I am? Am I good enough as I am? So worthiness questions, but really they tie into a deeper story that has to do with your childhood. And currently having Venus move into Sagittarius, which squares Virgo, you'll be receiving, a Venus square is nice because it tends to not be a tricky square. It's a lot of times we just don't get a lot done. I found a lot of times it's like makes us lazy, especially Venus and Sagittarius does have kind of a playful, partying, relaxed, or at least, all the work will get done. It has kind of that quality to it, that feel. So this could be good if you've been stressed out and if you've been putting yourself under a lot of burdens lately, like if you've been kind of your own whipping boy. Venus might be nice, and Venus in the fourth can feel like good sense of emotionally our life being on the right track. And it could be even something at home. It could be some sort of a beautification of the home. Maybe you just decide to do something to make the home, maybe you do a blessing, or you do a smudge the home, something more spiritual, to bring in good vibes, good benefic, like good healthy energy into your space where you live. Setting some intentions. If you like feng shui, it's a great time for that. If you feel like you need to do something to make your home environment feel protected spiritually, it's also a good time for that. To me, I think of Venus as benefactors, and that includes, I think, angels. I think it also includes those who have, like, especially in a water house, could even be those who are on the other side when it's in Sagittarius, because it has a divine or almost like an angelic quality to it. So, and you've had Jupiter in your fourth, which is good too. But Jupiter is on Neptune right now. So for like squaring Neptune. So if Jupiter square the sun, and your sun's on one side, Neptune's on the other, and then there's Jupiter. So this can be a time where our sense of identity can be a little wobbly. We can be a little unsure. It's okay. Just take everything with a grain of salt, basically, right? So if you get worried about something or feeling paranoid or distrustful, just give it a little bit of time, all right? And Neptune makes things kind of confusing, so that's normal. What else did I have for you guys? Seems like, good time as well to have a heart-to-heart conversation with someone that you love, sort of about the reality of both of your fears maybe, and from a place that is heart-to-heart, like from the heart, and from that place of I really want to understand as well where you're coming from. I need to feel understood, but I also want to understand, from both perspectives. That book, Crucial Conversations, might be a good one. Great time for anything that's to do with communication, really. Okay. Moving on to Libra. So Libra, I'm going to take a drink of water since we're halfway through, right? Okay, Libra, I'm calling this the pleasure of a new idea. In fact, what I might do, let's see where we're at. I'm going to pause this right here, and I'm going to do Libra on part 2. I'll be right back.